Hello, and welcome to Day by Day True Crime Stories, the podcast where we explore a different crime or justice milestone from this day in history. I'm your host, Kona Gallagher, and today is August 1st. On this day in 1966, Charles Whitman climbed to the top of the University of Texas Tower and unleashed a tragedy that stunned a nation. Today, we're discussing the University of Texas Tower shooting. Let's get started. In the early hours of August 1st, 1966, 25-year-old Charles Whitman was already in motion. By then, he had written 2 chilling suicide notes. In them, he confessed that he planned to kill his wife and mother, claiming it was to spare them from embarrassment. He begged for an autopsy to determine if there was something medically wrong with his mind. It was a telling clue that gave a hint as to what was going on in his head and to the chaos he was about to unleash. Just after midnight, Whitman drove to his mother Margaret's apartment in Austin and stabbed her to death with a bayonet. He then wrapped her body in sheets and left a note on her bed. A few hours later, he returned home and murdered his wife Kathleen while she slept, stabbing her 5 times in the chest. He then covered her with a sheet, sat down at his typewriter, and kept writing, articulating a disturbing mix of logic and emotional disarray. By the time dawn broke, he was preparing for something even more terrible. Packing a footlocker with weapons, food, and ammunition, Whitman drove to the University of Texas campus. He had been a Marine sharpshooter. He knew what he was doing. And he knew where he wanted to do it. At around 11:25 a.m., Whitman arrived on campus wheeling his footlocker filled with guns and ammo. Wearing coveralls, he posed as a delivery worker and talked his way into a parking permit. Then he entered the main building. Using a service elevator, he ascended to the 27th floor, climbed the final stairs to the observation deck, and encountered 2 receptionists. He killed them both. He was almost caught right then as he was dragging one of the receptionists and hiding her behind a couch. But he got through, and at 11:48 a.m., Whitman stepped onto the observation deck with a scoped Remington 700 rifle and opened fire. His first shots were met with confusion. Some students thought that it was construction noise. But within 20 minutes, Whitman had already killed 7 people. Among the victims was 18-year-old Claire Wilson, who was 8 months pregnant. She was shot in the abdomen, and her unborn baby later died. Claire survived, but her life was forever changed. For 96 minutes, Whitman fired relentlessly. Victims fell on sidewalks, stairwells, even behind concrete planters as they scrambled for cover. A student later remembered thinking that the fallen people were playing some sort of joke until the blood was unmistakable. Officers tried to reach Whitman, but it wasn't easy. A civilian in a small plane flew over the tower to distract him while others returned fire from the ground. Still, the horror continued until 1:24 p.m. when officers Houston McCoy and Ramiro Martinez finally reached the deck, where a dramatic standoff ensued. As Martinez and McCoy approached the observation deck, they were joined by civilian Alan Crum, who had followed them up the tower. Crum recalled asking him, quote, "Are we playing for keeps?" Martinez replied, quote, "You're damn right we are." To which Crum replied, "Well, you better deputize me." Martinez replied, "Consider yourself deputized." The final confrontation was tense and claustrophobic. Martinez fired first, striking Whitman. Then McCoy stepped forward and shot him in the head with a shotgun, instantly killing him. Martinez followed up with a shot to Whitman's arm, making sure that the threat was over. From the plaza below, a white cloth fluttered from the tower, a signal to all that the ordeal had ended. But the silence that followed wasn't relief, it was stunned disbelief. One Associated Press reporter who was shot while trying to help said afterward, quote, "I forgot my Marine training. I didn't zigzag," end quote. He had tried to run in a straight line and paid the price. Stories like this just captured how surreal and sudden the attack had been. The toll was staggering. 17 people lost their lives that day, including Whitman and an unborn child. 31 others were wounded. Survivors spoke of shock, grief, and guilt. Some couldn't talk about it for decades. In the months that followed, the Texas legislature passed a law allowing universities to form their own police forces. By 1967, the UT System Police was born. The observation deck was closed until security could be improved. Officers Martinez and McCoy were awarded Medals of Valor. McCoy later said that he didn't want what he did that day to define him, but acknowledged that it probably would. In 2016, UT Austin unveiled a memorial near the tower. The granite stones list the names of those killed, and they're placed away from the tower as a symbolic gesture of moving forward. At 11:48 a.m. on the 50th anniversary, the tower clock stopped for 24 hours. The shooting was also a milestone in American media. It was one of the first mass shootings broadcast live, changing how news is covered. It also marked the beginning of public debates about gun access, mental health, and emergency response, debates that we still grapple with today. After Whitman's death, his autopsy revealed a tumor pressing on his amygdala, the part of the brain involved in emotion and aggression. While some experts believed that it could have influenced his actions, others cautioned against attributing the massacre to biology alone. The truth of the matter is, while there may have been some factors we can point toward to help explain this, like every mass shooting, at the end of the day, there really is no reason for any of it. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Day by Day True Crime Stories. If you found today's episode compelling, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It'll help us grow. And be sure to join me again tomorrow as we explore another significant event in true crime history. Until then, stay safe and remember that behind every headline is a life worth remembering. Day by Day, True Crime Stories is a Little Monster production.
Hey, you can do it!